You're listening to the Unpenned Show with Paul and Andy, broadcasting live around the world. We believe freedom is free. It is enslavement that you're paying for. If you ain't mad by now, you're not paying attention.
Well, a very good evening to the show then, guys and girls. Thank you for joining us another Tuesday evening. It is Tuesday the 12th of February 2013. Hopefully you can hear me. Let's turn myself up just a little bit, make sure everybody can hear me okay. I have the other two musketeers sat in with me. Hello, guys.
Good evening, Paul.
Hello.
Okay. It is Pancake Day. Have we had pancakes? Well, I haven't actually. I've got a fish and chip shop, but a lot of other people had pancakes, so it's been a quiet Tuesday for me. Why do we call it Pancake Day? I mean, I don't think people can remember.
No, I can't remember why.
It's not really Pancake Day, is it?
No.
It's Shrove Tuesday, and I think this is a very interesting way to start the show, because Shrove Tuesday, the word Shrove is the past tense of the word shrive, and the word shrive is to confess. It is confess. That is the word shrive. Now then, what happened yesterday? What happened yesterday?
The Pope resigned.
The Pope resigned, the first one for over 600 years, citing ill health. And he resigned the very day before Shrove Tuesday, the day of confession. It's a means to obtain absolution for one's sins by way of confession and doing penance. Do you think the guy's got a conscience? No. But it is a very interesting timing of this resignation, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Because it came out on Monday, and today, because he's now resigned, is he confessing? Has he got a conscience? Look into those eyes. What do you think?
I don't think so.
I just see a cold, dark, staring evil in those eyes.
I don't think he's got enough time left on this earth to confess, really.
Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but I do know there's a very interesting prophecy, isn't there, regarding our next Pope. I'm saying our because I'm not even a Catholic myself. I don't know where the word our came from. But regarding the next Pope, there is a very interesting conspiracy that could be built around this next Pope. And we do have a new story on it, and the guys, as organised as I asked them to be, they're not ready, are you guys? You're not ready at all, are you?
I haven't got anything on that.
Okay, well, we do...
The conspiracy is...
Okay, well, the conspiracy is that this is our last and final... I've done it again, our.
Right,
this is the last and final Pope.
Bless you, my son.
All right, this is the... This is a prophecy from the 12th century, I think it is. And, yes, this is going to be our last and final Pope. I've done it. This hour thing, stop me, all right? Stop me. And the prophecy goes that he's going to be called Peter the Roman. And one of the favourites in the running is a guy called Peter. So that should leave the end of the world crew with another date in the future to imagine that could be the end of the world.
Civilization as we know it.
I think the prophecy goes that Rome will fall, the city will be destroyed, and this sort of thing.
Yep.
Do we believe any of that?
No.
No, I don't really believe it myself. I mean, I have come to the conclusion that everything I read on this this spy grid here has been put there by somebody.
Yeah, if it does happen, I'll hold my hand up and say I were wrong. Sorry,
well,
I didn't believe you.
I'll just say that I'm not convinced that I believe very much in this spy grid.
No.
Because this spy grid has been built to replace television. And television doesn't really tell us the truth about things that matter. It tells us about lots of things that don't actually matter, but it doesn't really come up with the goods when we actually demand the truth, does it?
No, it doesn't, no.
No, I mean, I still haven't paid my TV licence.
Good for
I'm
you.
waiting for them to come. They will come. I'm just waiting. I want to see what happens. It's not that I'm not going to pay it. I've no intention to go to jail for 150 quid. I'm not playing that bloody game. But I want to see what happens. I just want to see what process goes. Told you about the parking ticket last week. Still nothing.
Yeah.
Still nothing. Well, I think the 6 months have gone by now, so I think I'm pretty much, I'm not. I'm still in plans. Given up on that one, haven't we?
Very good.
So, the Pope resigning before the day he could confess all his sins, and I think we're talking about hundreds of thousands of children. Because Mr. Ratzinger, before he became Pope, one of his positions was to head up the very office that was basically responsible for concealing all the stories that could escape about what on earth the Catholic Church had been up to, not this year, not last year, but for hundreds and maybe even longer than that. Anyone got into trouble for it? No,
I can think of.
Nobody's got into trouble for it. What's that old saying? If you've got a shoe fetish, you get to be a shoe salesman, don't you? That's your dream job, isn't it? Well, if you've got other tendencies, you join the clubs that let you get away with it, don't you? You do, and we live in very dark and deep times. I think we'll all agree with that, won't we now? The news is now giving us... if it ain't the truth, I don't know what is. And I'm going to ban the word truth, but... isn't the news a bit like us not being able to fight back? Isn't it like being in a boxing match?
Yeah.
Where we're actually switching on the TV or buying the newspapers or whatever every day, and it's like horror magazines out there. They're all horror stories. And it's a bit like being punched in the face. And because you trust, TRUSSED, you don't fight back.
No.
So these news stories which tell us about what's going on with their points and breaking news, we feel weak and helpless, don't we? We can't do anything about these things that are happening around the world and the things that are happening in our churches and our hospitals and our courts and our government. We feel powerless.
We feel helpless, yeah.
And isn't that the idea?
Powerless.
Isn't that the idea? Isn't that what the news is doing?
That's what they want you to feel like,
it's you know what I'm trying
pummeling,
to say.
Yeah.
Pummeling.
Yeah.
Pummeling us into submission, where we just think, oh, for God's sake, I can't take any more of this. So we don't. It just goes in one ear
and straight
out the other side. And we're completely numb, aren't we?
Yep.
This constant barrage of pain and horror, we're now completely numb. We have no feeling at all. In fact, what would be the word? Desensitized.
Desensitized, yeah.
We now don't care. We just say, oh, for God's sake, leave me alone. Let me get home from work and have my tea and
put the
telly on and have a couple of beers. Leave me alone. I can't cope with this anymore. Meanwhile, the government of the day is attacking us every day by stealing our money and killing brown people in faraway lands that most people can't find on a bloody world map to basically steal their resources. Install a Western-style banking system. It's covered by the word democracy, which is to steal everything, re-educate the system or the children to believe this is good for them, and shoot anybody who doesn't like it. This is modern day democracy. And lots of people might say, well, if we're getting the oil, I mean, great stuff. do you see any prices going down at all?
No.
Are you getting anything? Are you getting anything back
any
for this
price
at all?
go down at all?
No, we're not getting a bloody penny, are we? No. I mean, they say austerity. Now we have to pay more
And get less.
and get less, or at least use less and pay more.
Yeah.
It sounds nice in that
It
way,
does
doesn't it?
sound- yeah,
So
sounds
if
nice,
you manage to insulate your house by basically walking around in a sleeping bag all day, if you manage to lower your gas consumption by 10%, well done, because there is not many months before the announcement will be made that another gas rise is imminent,
coming in
because the
around the
system is
corner.
falling to bits, and we need to provide new infrastructure and build windmills.
Yeah. And they
Bloody
call,
windmills.
and they call themselves the Big Five.
Bloody windmills. Where are we going? Only a little a little searching will tell you that these windmills are just a scam.
They are.
They're just a bloody scam.
They're-
If it ain't bloody windy, it don't bloody work.
It don't,
Right, and if it's
no.
too windy, they break up.
They
Right, they
have
actually
to
bloody break,
switch
don't they?
them
I mean,
off.
just Google it.
It's too
Windmill
windy.
breaks because wind is too strong. Well, wind turbine. Wind turbine breaks because the wind was too strong. This is nuts, isn't it? I mean, this is bloody nuts. I mean, how can we have got to the point where grown people, right? I'm saying grown people, I'm not saying adults. Where's the word people come from? Peon pile.
Peon pile.
Peon pile. We're the peons. If we're lucky. I think there's a class below that, by the way. But we're the peons. And the peon pile is us, the people. Where was I going? What to say?
Wind turbines.
Was I on wind turbines?
Yeah.
I was on... Can't we work out how the planet works? How the weather works? The weather works with a combination of sea and sun, doesn't it?
Does, yeah.
All right, the sea being the water, and the sun being the heat.
Heat.
I mean, this is basic steam engine technology, isn't it?
Steam heat.
Yeah,
yes.
steam engine technology. I mean, nobody can really argue that we have the ability to actually to actually focus the sun's rays through a magnifier and create a beam at the end that will raise whatever it's focused on by hundreds and hundreds of degrees. We have the very power in the sky to boil water for free,
Yep.
with a little bit of magnification, of course. And that water creates the steam, which can drive a turbine, and the energy can be taken out of the steam. It's then condensed back into water, off it goes round again, crack on.
Yep.
Spain was doing it like that.
Well, but why can't we see that? Why do we have to go through these nuclear power station rituals, which I wonder if they are?
I wonder if they
I
are as
wonder
well.
if they are. Because what I've just described is a very basic form of energy that we should and could be using. I think technology's moved on considerably, from then, don't you believe?
I think what's in the power stations is not what we believe is in there.
I shall agree with you. I shall agree with you. And as they slowly shut down the coal-fired power stations, the dirty ones, so they claim, after making them spend millions to stay online for another year or two, as they slowly come to their end of their useful life, as they say.
I remember when we were at school, we were scheduled to go and visit a power station
All right.
in junior school, and it was cancelled, and we've never went. And I don't know anybody that's actually had a visit to one. Really.
I haven't been to a power
No.
station, so I don't know.
No,
I'd like to have a look at the inside bit.
I would. Yeah.
I mean, there's a thing on BBC Two a little while ago, and that was showing you about how modern day power stations work. But it was all, it was coal-fired and nuclear generated power stations. But I don't know really. I mean, I think there'll be.
We're told it's a turbine, a steam turbine.
Well, they do use magnets and everything inside them. I think what I describe is what perhaps could be done on a very small scale for your own individual or perhaps small community. But these things are supplying whatever gigawatts, megawatts, gigawatts, whatever they are, whatever. I mean, I don't think we can quite build that in the back garden shed, can we?
Well, we
No,
do.
but on a small community level, people have done it.
Well, I know we could do it, but
Yeah.
why aren't people doing it? It's because they can't be bothered.
Centralisation
Well,
of
don't we
power.
realise now that we've got to the lazy bit, we've got to the weak age. Language is the word weak, we live in the weak age, and we want everything to be brought to us. We're almost, compared to 100, 150 years ago, aren't we sort of living like royalty?
Yeah,
To
yeah,
a point,
really.
aren't we really?
Yeah.
We live in our own if we're lucky, we live in our own warm, comfortable, well-insulated, nicely decorated homes, and everything that we need is piped into us.
Yeah, I'm of an age where I remember scraping the ice off the inside of the window so you could see out and see what the weather was like.
But what I mean is that we're living at a level that would have been unheard of 100 years ago. This was for royalty.
It was, yeah.
Inside
loos
we
and all
couldn't
this
have
kind of thing.
this.
No.
This was the big mansions. I mean, history will tell you that the 1800s, particularly the 1800s, those are the big mansions. I mean, they couldn't afford to heat them in the end. That's why they actually abandoned quite a few, didn't they?
Yeah.
They couldn't keep them bloody warm.
Turned them all into bedsits. Cold, damp bedsits.
But looking back, we are living like royalty. Now, I know we can congratulate ourselves on achieving this standard of living, but I think we need to remember that it's been done on debt.
Debt, yeah.
Now, they called it credit, because that sounds really nice.
They did, yeah.
It sounds like you've got some money, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Are you in
I'm
credit?
in credit.
Exactly. Because if they called it debt, we would never have bought it, would we?
No.
So let's call it credit and fool them. And the game is still being played, isn't it? I mean, look at the online gambling stuff. I mean, if people are going to fall for that, they're going to fall for bloody anything.
They will, yeah.
How can you play a machine and expect to win? The only mug at a poker table, it will be you. Yeah. It is. I don't know exactly where we're going, but I know where we've come from. And wrong way around. I don't exactly know where we've come from, but I know where we're going.
I knew what you meant.
If we didn't come from monkeys, there's one thing for sure. I have a feeling we might bloody end up there, eh?
Yeah.
Right, so Tuesday. We've done Pancake Tuesday, we've done Shrove Tuesday.
We've done
we've
the
got
Pope.
we've got rid of a Pope, as it were, and another one coming. I think he's a coloured guy, this Peter, by the way.
Yeah, he is, yes.
Now that will be interesting.
There's
Pope.
thoughts just into my head. There's probably a note on the Vatican saying, just poped out.
I always look at that, the way to pay on the internet. You remember it? PayPal.
Yeah.
Now just say it. PayPal.
PayPal.
It's nuts, isn't it? I mean, is that how the language really works? Well, we tend to think it sort of halfway does, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, we try and decode Oceania, and we do have an awful lot of fun trying to do it. And I can't find this decode that you and I are messing about with now. Well, we've been doing this about 3 or 4 years, maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years in total, but on the decode of the language, probably over the last 3 years.
The methodology was about 3 years ago, wasn't it? And I'm going to come back in a little while, because we actually told you last week about Black Mirror. Now, you saw it last night, and I saw
did.
it. Well, we saw it today, actually.
But
never mind. We've watched it. And it was Stuart who introduced us to Black Mirror.
Was.
And you're the only one that
Stuart.
hasn't seen it from last night. But I want to do a little bit of a decode of Black Mirror, do you?
Yeah, I'd like
because
to.
I think we've picked up quite a lot about really what that's all doing. The subliminals and the messages and the stuff. I don't think we'd have got it a little while ago, would we?
No.
We wouldn't, but we're sort of halfway figured it out now. Anyway, going to have a little bit of a musical break. We're sort of designing the show now to sort of 15, 20-minute segments. Then we're going to play a little tune, and those segments are going to be broken up and put onto YouTube, yeah? And I try to stay on one subject, and I actually never do achieve it, because when you talk, I talk, and away we go. Stop bugging me. Stop fussing me. It's my life. They do bug us in many ways than once. I mean, we have little spying devices. They're called bugs, aren't they?
Yeah.
And we've got a web. Yeah, we've got a web. I mean, if we actually sort of travel down the years, and I'm talking about the ages here, we've actually been different animals as the ages have gone by, haven't we?
Yeah.
Because we know the ages represent a period of just over 2,000 years. 2160, I think, is the number, isn't it? Which is the exact diameter of the moon, actually.
It is, yes.
I know. I digress.
Strange.
I know, 27.3% the size of the Earth, 27.3 days cycle, same as the women's. 273 days gestation, 400 times closer, 400 times... But back to it. The ages, right? Now, if we go back to what we understand to be written history, I mean, apparently we've been here millions of years, but we just figured out how to write about 6,000 years ago. Very interesting ideas we have about this. I mean, I personally think we're going through the second great flood, don't we? We actually think...
Yes,
we'll come back to that in a minute, and I'll explain why. And that is because we know we're travelling backwards through the cosmos. as the star signs actually appear, and Santos and Marty and Michael Tsar and all that. We've had all them, and we've asked them the question, and the answer is yes, we are travelling backwards.
Yeah.
Now, if we go back to Taurus, okay, that would take us to just over about 6,000 years ago.
About that, yeah.
Now, Taurus is the bull.
It is.
Okay, he is the bull, and bulls and cows.
Yes.
Now, in this reality we live, we still have bulls and cows, but we call them bullies and cowards. And we actually get to be those every day, don't we?
Yep.
If you want to take on a fight or a challenge, you become the bull, and you charge forwards. If you don't want to take on the fight, you cower. You actually submit, as it were.
Yep.
So, the bulls and cows reality might be how we started, which was basically, you're going to fight or give up.
Yeah.
And that's about 6,000 years ago. If we move forward a couple of thousand years, the next stop is Aries. And that's the ram.
The ram.
Now, that's Aries, the ram, very much the Baphomet symbolism.
Yep.
Is that where it came from? I don't know. And people who say they do know are just reading a book that tells them it might be true. So it doesn't matter about arguing about whether that is or not.
No, that is or not. No.
But we know Aries is depicted by the ram.
The ram.
And the ram, its understudies are obviously sheep and lambs and kids. Well, we have that all, again, in this reality, as our families, don't we?
Yeah.
We do have families, and the family is pretty much the sheep, the lambs, the goats, the rams, that sort of thing. And the terminology, our language, actually confirms that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Little lambs and kids and the sheep to be fleeced and the flocks and that sort of thing, and shepherds, which is very much where we are today as well. But let's move forward again, because then we move on to Pisces. And Pisces is the two fish. Now, we are shrinking in size, aren't we? We are contracting, becoming smaller. And we know that this time is an age of contracts. And contracts is, in one definition, to become smaller, and the second definition is to act in your own worst interests. A contra-act. Well, that's what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as fish, which is what we are, living in the world of SEE, with the money being the very liquid that we need to survive, the liquidity, cash flow, revenue streams, and currency, that is what the fish need to survive. In another realities, that's three realities that we're living in at the same time. Yeah? Now, if you want to research the word FIS, that is the word, that's the Latin word for you become.
You become.
So we just put an H on the end, and there we are. And look at all the things that we've got. We've got Findus.
Yes.
I mean, they have Findus. The bird's eye. Remember the bird's eye? The reason why it's called a bird's eye is because he was picking the fish out. These are all advertisers' tricks, by the way. Where was I was Black Mirror. I'm off Black Mirror completely.
You are, yeah. That's. But
I know.
You were down the.
But we are the fish, and I think I'll finish it off like I was going to start it. We are being drowned in a sea of ignorance and debt.
Yeah.
And as the water level rises, our view becomes darker and darker and darker, because the light can no longer pierce the depth that we're being brought to.
Yeah, the fathoms.
Yeah, and exactly. We'll never bloody fathom this.
No.
But they've built the arcs, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've built the seed vaults. They've got the DNA. They can repopulate this planet. I mean, I don't know if they've done every single animal, plant, and whatever else, but I suspect they're probably somewhere near.
Yeah.
Would you say?
I would have said so, yeah.
So I think this is the second Great Flood. And if you listen to Mr. Tsarian, we're bang on time for it. Now, the next reality is Aquarius. He's the water bearer.
Now, this gets interesting.
It does get interesting, because Aquarius is the water bearer. Now, what do we live in? Well, fish live in water. But he's carrying a bucket full of water.
A water carrier, yeah.
Well, the bucket, he can't get out of the bucket.
No, yeah.
Okay, the Pisces, the fish, swims in the sea. But Aquarius is the water carrier. Well, the fish are still in the water. So the transition from fish is going to be that we're going to be put in a bucket. And we can't get out of it. Well, let's have a look at the internet. Let's have a look at the internet, because the internet is where all the fish are rushing into. And they get their keys and boards and go online and surf. This is the new playground for fish, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they're in the net. And once you're in a fisherman's net, you'll do very well to get out. Would you agree?
I would.
Stuart?
So there's another interesting point to that as well. Is a lot of the old, what could you call them, scriptures, and on star signs and constellations, they showed a water bearer pouring the water out. And he's also the water bearer. He's also one of 2 signs that's actually human. No, 3. Sorry, Sagittarius is part human, I suppose. So we're going from a fish into a human, but he's pouring the water out.
Interesting, but that's not the way it looks to me at all, I'm afraid to say. That's not the way we're going.
Point,
no,
right.
Yeah, but we're not... It's a nice idea, but I don't see the positive yet becoming so. Yes, we can turn this around. I mean, yes, we can try and fight these people with basically the truth. But I can't... I mean, apart from us 3, we've been trying for some time, haven't we? I mean, we really don't have a gang here in North Yorkshire that we can actually say are awake, aware and ready to actually do something.
No, all they want to do is argue about who's right.
Because the fish like playing in the net.
Yeah.
Right, they like playing in this. Now, this gets a bit darker and nastier because we're heading towards the web, aren't we?
Yeah.
Now, once you're in a web, you've become even smaller. In fact, you've become nothing but a bug or an insect. And you're not getting out of that web.
No.
Because that spider is coming to get you at some point in the future. So when we drop the word internet and start using the word web, we know that our time is getting a little bit closer. Now, I've been listening to Alex a little bit earlier, and he had David Icke about the nature of reality. The nature of reality is now being said by some German scientists. German, would you believe? That the illusory the illusory planetary system and all that we see is created by the power of thought. It's only here because we've been able to create it by thinking it is so. But they're also accepting that it is designed and it has a structured design after thinking it was nothing but confusion. So they're leading us to believe that we have the power to create, in other words, to continue creation, but we didn't create it to start with, which leaves the path wide open, doesn't it? Leaves the path wide open for somebody to come in and say they did create it.
They did create it, yes.
I don't think that's ever going to happen, by the way, but it's opened the door. It's opened the door for us to be looking up into the clouds.
Yes.
For, this, they always have us looking up, don't they?
They do.
We're looking up, what are they doing? Pull your bloody pants down into your pockets while they're doing it. Yeah.
Doing whatever.
Now, Black Mirror.
Yes.
Okay, third attempt to get there. Black Mirror, Channel 4 last night. If you didn't see it, you'll catch it on 4OD. The clicking you can hear is Stuart who keeps lighting his cigarette. It just does. He just can't keep it going. It's like a little stick, isn't it? Anyway, Black Mirror, Channel 4 last night. If you didn't watch it, please get it on 4OD. Your decode. We started today, didn't we? I'm not going to give you the whole story, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a decode that we have for it. And that is that this is a young couple who moved to the country after, I think it's her mum dies, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they moved to the country, and anyway...
Want a little restart.
And basically the guy is a complete technophobe, isn't he?
Yeah.
He can't take his head out of his phone. And at some point she actually looks at him and said, that thing is a thief. And that confirms that we call this the time-stealing machine.
We do.
The internet is the time-stealing machine.
Steals your time.
It does, it steals your time, and you spend your time for free.
And we remember the first...
Time computers was the first computer I had as well, yeah. Anyway, moving on. The actual guy is a technophobe, and we don't actually get to actually know how he dies, but he dies.
He dies.
He dies, and anyway, the gist of the story is that one of her friends says that, look, you don't have to suffer like this. You basically can, and it's an application that she gets signed up for. And this application says, look, we can actually troll the internet and pick up everything that he's said, everything that's ever been recorded. We can pick it all up for you, and we can perhaps bring him back to be able to speak to you. And after being spooked tremendously, she decides that okay, I'll give it a go. And she does.
She does, yeah.
And she does, and basically, she thoroughly enjoys it after being spooked to the point of being terrified and horrified and she finally accepts.
She bowed to temptation.
Yep, the devil always does that, doesn't he? Always asks if he can come in. And I think we should remember that in this control system, that he has to ask. If we say, no, that is not the future we're having, then protocol says that they won't do it. Because if you look at all the vampire films that have existed over the past, 10 years now? Okay, all the vampire films, they're teaching us the protocol. They come as your friends, but you have to invite them in.
Yeah.
And they do not hide what they are. They don't hide what it is that they do. You have to invite them in. Well, what have we got? We've got an endless supply of teenagers, I guess, now and higher, who love this stuff. I mean, they're basically trying to familiarise us with the control system. It is the revelation of the method they're giving us, if you choose to actually decode it properly, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're telling us exactly how they're doing it, but people are not doing it. Back to Black Mirror. Okay, now she does, but after speaking to him on the phone for what appears to be, a considerable time, and she's always speaking to him on the phone, she's got no other friends at all, she completely shuts herself away, she speaks to him on the phone, the voice is so accurate that she forgets that it's pretend, and she speaks to him like it's real. A complete dream world, yeah?
Yeah.
And then it moves on, and she said, and the actual voice that's speaking to her says there is another level to this. It's only in beta phase, but there is another level. And we're not told what it is until a big box arrives. And in there is what looks to be... It's a mannequin, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's a faceless mannequin wrapped in...
Gel
and
bags.
ice.
Yeah, gel and
CO2.
ice.
And she puts it in the bath and adds the magic ingredients, which looks like fish food. That's a quote from it, isn't it?
Does, yeah.
And she's told to keep out of the bathroom until the next day.
Don't put the light on.
Don't put the light on, yeah, which is very interesting, wasn't it? Anyway, sure as she has her own avatar that looks exactly like her partner.
Yeah.
We won't spoil the ending.
No.
We won't spoil the ending, but it gets deep and dark and uncomfortable and disturbing. And perhaps what we'll do is, rather than spoil the ending, we'll put the 4OD link below the YouTube video and go into our full decode of it next
week.
Because then people can actually disagree with us.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I think we'll let the full decode go, but it's deep, it's dark, it's uncomfortable, it's nasty, it's got the agenda written all over it. Yeah? So shall we leave it at that?
At that, yeah.
Okay, let's try and lighten the mood a little bit. What have we got over there? I think all we've got is Daily Mail stuff primarily. What you got, Stu? You're our reporter in the field. Let's change direction a little bit and see what we've got.
Well,
Pick a story. Let's get a start. We always chatter on about stories. We just get going on one and then I'm away.
well, it's nothing happy. There's
Pick one. Just pick anyone. That'll be fine.
Oh, the bit about the pensioners. Government stealing all your money.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a shame about the pensioners now. I mean, the pensioners have watched so much TV and trusted them, local doctors and healthcare services so much now that you just got to feel sorry for them. I mean, they're now talking about taking the bus passes, the fuel allowance. I don't know about the bedroom tax, how it affects the pensioners. I'm curious. I don't know how it affects the pensioners. Do we know? I don't think we know for sure, do we?
I was of the understanding that it was just to do with council houses and people.
Well, we need to find out. I don't know, actually. So, but I'm just asking that, does the bedroom tax affect the pensioners? Well, I think it's been brought in for them, really.
Yeah, and
It doesn't always start where it wants to finish, does it?
No.
It doesn't always start where it wants to go. But I think it's been. I think they've been forced to sell their houses myself. And if they aren't, they're going to be. I mean, look at what's happening to them. I mean, a government body. What's the name of the government body? Is it Demos? Was it Demos recommended that the first £36,000 worth of care should perhaps be put up by the person requiring it? And the government have said, we're ignoring that completely. It's going to be 75,000 now.
75.
Yeah, the first 75,000. That's. I mean, look at. They're all privatised. These home care services, aren't they?
They are. Yeah.
I mean, look at what's happening here. I mean, there's going to be no. There's
in-
no end to it.
I've worked.
Yeah,
in
but
one
this
or
is
two of them.
75 grand. They're having your house.
Yes,
They've been doing this for some years now, by the way.
they have.
A lot of people think this is not what's going on. It's just a few select cases. Bollocks. Right? They're having all the houses.
Yeah.
The first thing to do when you're actually sick and you need in-home care, and this has been confirmed to me by somebody who actually does this, they don't look at the level of care you need.
No, they look
a
at your bank
financial
account.
advisor comes in
Yeah.
and they ask for access to your accounts so they can see how much you're worth.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly, so I'm not going to say this is for sure, but I know they have asked in the past for access to your account as and when required, which means they'll just take it when they want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And rather than make you sell your house, I'm sure you just sign it over, don't you? You just sign it over, and when the time comes, they just... I mean, this is what's going on. I mean, it's the Death Management Service knows exactly what it's doing. And with this sort of money kicking about, I mean, the vultures are everywhere, aren't they? You know, we've got some horror stories about hospitals coming out as well, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the whole thing's going private, isn't it? The whole thing is going private in the end, but it's been done by stealth.
Problem.
I mean, the best thing is that we'll still be paying the staff's wages.
We will, yeah.
This is marvellous, isn't it?
Problem, reaction, solution, isn't
Yeah,
it?
but the actual
That's
company
what
that
it
takes
is.
the company that takes the hospital on,
Yes.
that gets the bloody staff wages paid by us.
By us, yeah.
So it's profit's a win-win, profit, isn't it? I mean, not only is one company building the hospitals to lease to the government, then the government's fleecing us for the staff, but the actual owning company that's running the medical service, right, is probably just a front for the pharmaceutical companies.
Well,
that
likely.
Well, of course
That
it
makes
is.
perfect sense,
Of
doesn't it,
course
for them to
bloody
do that?
is.
Yeah.
And we just idly sit by. We just sit back and
We do.
allow this.
And how many... I don't know how many pensioners are looking into what cover they've got. I know they're on about you might have to take out an insurance policy to cover yourself as well.
Of course, you'll have to have insurance.
What are you going to pay? Are you going to pay your insurance policy or your gas bill? Or
Of course,
are you
you'll have
gonna
to have
pay your
insurance.
food
Yeah,
bill?
of course.
It's just this is. I was chatting to a couple the other day. I went out to repair the cistern, and they're not elderly. They are retired, but they're retired because they've worked hard and they've put money away. They've saved money, and even they were saying to me the other day, we've lived in this house, we've no mortgage on it anymore. It's a big 5-bedroom house, and they want to sell it, but they know if they sell it, they can't get the money for it that they want, or that they've invested in it.
But they're never going to get it.
But they're never going to get it.
They're never gonna get it.
And they can't. They were saying, even we can't afford the bills here at this house. It's getting to the state now where we can't afford the bills, and yet they've saved.
Yeah.
But we know this is Agenda 21. Then
Well, this is...
if you've not looked at Agenda 21, look it up. You can go out and find that information. Go look it up.
I think that the chorus know about Agenda 21. I mean, it's horrible.
It is.
The farmers are going to suffer first, of course. The farmers are going to lose all the rights to the land. We know because that's going on in Australia now. Australia seems to be furthest along. With America's going well as well.
It along
Now, we
quite
think it's
nicely.
not happening in this country, but I can't find a lot of what's happening in this country. But you've been to an Agenda 21 meeting, haven't you?
I have.
Now, go on, recall that for us.
That was
Because
a Yorkshire Water meeting.
go through it, because it's very good, this.
They actually paid... just a letter came through the post. Would you sit in on a meeting? It'll take a couple of hours on such and such an evening, and we'll pay you 50 quid. So I thought, well, if Yorkshire Water have got 50 quid to hand my way, I'll go and have a listen. And basically it was, how many people around the table? Probably 15 of us, of different types of people.
So that was 750
women,
quid.
men.
That was 750
Yeah,
quid that
it
they
was.
paid out.
And they hired the room. They paid for the hire of the room.
That's quite a lot of money for a little small place like...
And paid
we
for a
live in.
guy's wages. He lived in London for him to... And he was doing these around the country. So they was paying him for the hotel rooms.
Go on, because I
And
know where this is going.
He had a
but
little dictaphone on the desk.
We've never told this story, have we?
No, we haven't. No. And I'd love to know if you can put a comment on YouTube whether you were invited to go on one or not. But the demographic of people round the table, there's a few self-unemployed people like myself. There was some unemployed. There were some business people, some mums. So they'd done the research. Where they'd got all these names from, I don't know. I had to have a guess, I suppose.
You were probably picked first.
Probably.
Well, there was only... You were the only alternative guess.
Yeah. Yes. I was
I keep putting in...
I was
Come on, tell
I
us
was the
story,
only
come
one
on.
that kept putting a fly in the ointment. But basically, it made everybody feel guilty. He had a little program on his computer that was that you had to go through, and you could show how ways you could save water. Basically, they're on about water harvesting, how you can reduce your water bill, by putting in a meter, by putting in dual flush toilets, not running the tap when you brush your teeth, all this nonsense. Don't use your dishwasher as much. Do use your washing machine as much. And if you've got an old washing machine and an old dishwasher, get rid of them and get a new one that are more efficient. Blah blah blah. Basically, picking people's brains, and that was, without a doubt, and I said, this is Agenda 21.
No, but the news story, you've missed the news story.
He
He was quoting, wasn't he? He put some quotes in, didn't he?
He mentioned the carbon footprint, and he mentioned
A Telegraph article.
that we've all got to reduce our carbon footprint. But he did ask the question, what do you think the carbon footprint is? And nobody round the room knew.
What did you
and
say?
even the guy didn't know that was asking the question. And I just said, it's us. And he said, what do you mean? Well, we create the carbon and we leave footprints. The carbon
that
can't.
was too simple.
The
It's
carbon can't leave a footprint.
No, he knew exactly you were right. He knew exactly you were right.
And
Now, I thought he actually came with a Telegraph article or something written.
oh, he did. Yes, he did in the
Yeah.
newspaper. I
Can you
can't
remember?
remember what it was.
It was very poisonous, wasn't it?
It was,
It
yeah.
was one of those headlines that are written in a way that, how dare you disagree with it?
Yes.
Wow, that's the crux of this story.
Basically, you're wasting water, and it will be your own demise. That's basically what it was. It will be your own downfall if you use the water without respect, without respecting the water.
We don't know this has been taught to children. Well, we
No,
do.
well, we
do now, but this has been taught to children.
It is.
We're a little way off the actual control system revealing itself in a way that will confirm all we're saying. But our children, or children of a certain age, have been taught this stuff at school. And they're going to bring it home. I'm aware of this already. They bring it home, and they actually openly say that, don't run the tap, and we should have a shower instead of a bath. And
Yep.
you haven't put too much water in that kettle, have you?
That's
and
it.
Is that washing machine full? And
Yeah.
the kids are starting to become a little bit. It's uncomfortable. I'm not saying we should the water thing. It makes sense, but it's the kids that bring in these rules home from school, and I can't prove this, but I know that this will be happening. The teachers who teach the kids that this is what we should be doing, after a week or 2 or 3 will be saying, how are your parents doing?
Yes.
How are they doing? Are they listening to you? Are they respecting the water? Are they looking after the planet's future? Because, to be honest, if they aren't, you're going to have to pay the price. And this is changing the actual dynamics of what's happening within families.
Yeah.
Because is there a water shortage? Well, I think it'd be hard to prove in this country right now, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I mean, over the past 12 months, was it record rain last year or something like that? I don't really know. But it was it the second wettest year on record ever or something like that? So they can't go with a water shortage.
No.
But the smart meters are doubling most people's bills. Now, I don't know if anybody's got a smart meter in, but I had to have one. Because the meter isn't on my property. It's actually in the road. So it wasn't as if I could even refuse to have one.
No.
It's only when it's on your property that you can actually sort of say, no, I'm not having it. Now, the gas and electric companies, their meters are on my property. And because I am a business, they've already had 2 goes at me with a gas meter. Already 2 goes. And they haven't put up much of a fight when I've said, no, I don't want it. And they've said, all right, okay, why is that? And I've said, well, I'm going to have to ask you to sign an agreement that it won't cause any health effects and it doesn't invade my privacy. And the person on the end of the phone was like, yeah, whatever. We just want to put a new meter in. And I said, well, I don't want it, thanks very much. And put the phone down. Never heard another word. About 2 years later, which was last year, I said, we're your gas supplier, and we've written to you and told you that we want to install a new meter. And I said, okay, then let's see what that entails. And they said, well, we're actually going to send an inspector, a surveyor around, and he's going to have a look and decide what meter's best for you. So I thought, okay, that doesn't mean putting one in, so I'll let him come. And sure enough, he came. Mr. Briefcase came in. Had a look at it and said, right, okay, it's in a cupboard there. The cupboard doors will have to come off. The shelf will have to come off. We'll need to do this. Well, you'll need to do this, and you'll need to do that. I said, I'm not doing anything. I said, you're the ones that need to do this. No, we don't do that. I said, okay, what I'll do is I'll submit a quote for the work that you need doing to put your meter in. So I'll submit a quote for you. and I haven't needed to because they've never come back to me. But when they do, I'm going to ask somebody I know very well, who isn't sat very far away from me, to quote for the work. And then I'm going to get a second quote from somebody who's not far away from me. Okay, I'm going to get a second quote for the work. Because I know refusing this meter is going to be very difficult. I'm going to put up a hell of a fight, by the way. I am going to put up a hell of a fight. Whether I'll be able to stop the coming, I don't know. I'm led to believe that rough arm tactics, if needed to be used, will be used in the end. Or they could just switch me off.
Or turn you off.
They could just switch the bloody thing off. Yeah, they could refuse to supply me. So I am in a situation where all I can do is highlight the plight. All I can do is try and get the fight going and try and get people to see what's been done. You know, this is you'll do as you're told, otherwise we'll ruin your business. So when that fight comes, I'll share it with everybody and hopefully get a bit of publicity locally. That's the plan. Now, you don't think you have smart meters in your house. You don't think you have. And you're not sure either, are you? You think you've got at least one.
Well, I'm at my parents, so they've got a water meter that has an antenna on it, and I've registered this because I'm part of a local amateur radio group, and I've borrowed equipment to test these kind of things. Not sure on the Economy 7, although that could be linked back to the substation, so I'm not sure on that. But the water meter definitely does have a Wi-Fi antenna, and it pings every 15 minutes.
And you've checked that because you do have a machine to check that, don't you?
I borrowed one to check it, yes.
Yeah, it was the same. Right, okay.
Oh, yeah, I have the power density, but I mean the actual frequency, yeah.
Right.
As well.
Okay, another segment over. That'll be split up and on YouTube tomorrow. All the links throughout the show will be below the YouTube video, including the Channel 4 OD link to Black Mirror last night. So, let's move on then. Okay, we live in a world controlled by psychopaths. No doubt about it. We've had Thomas on the show twice now.
We have.
Once at another station and once with us a couple of weeks ago. An interview that we're both very proud of, actually. It went really well. Just finished reading Anvil of the Psyche yesterday. I'm saying finished reading it yesterday. I actually read it yesterday. It's that easy to read. Actually read the whole book, 128 pages, in just short of 3 hours. Easy.
Very
easy,
good.
loved it. Fast read. Genuine, easy to relay and repeat and share with people who don't think, so it makes them have to. And that's how I see that's how I see our task, really. We know enough now to stop studying the cell that we live in.
Yeah.
We know enough now that we've got to make a key to get out. We've actually got to, we've got to work out how to fashion this key and release ourselves from the cell. We've got ourselves out of one box, haven't we?
Yeah.
And that's by recognising the cell itself and actually breaking through the bars, which is called limited freedom. And we have limited freedom now because we understand the system and have stopped shouting at it. And thereby, it creates a lot of problems because people can't understand how we can be so calm and yet we say things that are so scary to others.
And suppose.
Yeah, how many times have we said, if you're still arguing with people, you really don't have to hang of this? Whether they're awake or asleep, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, no.
If you're arguing, you're not going to get. You're not going to get anything out.
No.
You know, we have the word pay attention, and I wonder if that comes from pay attention to Sion. I do sometimes because that was it. It was a 10% deal, wasn't it?
Yes, it used to be.
A long time ago, it was 10%.
Tithe ban.
That's right. Well done. It was played, and the word Sion comes in all sorts of pen Sion and ten Sion and man Sion, and the Sionists, well, we can decide who they are. They're a small group, powerful maybe, but they're meant to be Israelis. Israel. I mean, you just say how you say it, Israel. Well, who knows? I don't care about them really. What I care about is the world that I live in.
Yeah.
And trying to get people to wake up to the trouble that we're actually in. Because we are witnessing the end times of this version of humanity. And this version of humanity has the ability to feel. It has compassion and empathy. It has the ability to fairness and understanding. We're prepared to suffer if we think it's in a good cause.
Yeah.
And we enjoy the small amounts of pleasure and euphoria that we can achieve for ourselves. Life isn't a good deal. But if it was easy, we'd all be rubbish at it. Because it would be too easy. We like the challenge, don't we?
We should
and
do.
Adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters. So we do like adversity. A man of his time should be prepared to take the challenge, pick up the gauntlet and do what it is that a man's meant to do, which is to make the world a better place for him and his own.
Yeah.
But he should be able to do that without the game being rigged.
That's the
it's
problem.
not a fair ground, is
There
it?
lies the problem.
You see, a fair ground sounds great until you go into it and realise that every bloody game is rigged.
Yeah,
Well, this game's rigged as well.
it is.
Always was, by the way, always was. But the main part of the rigging started in basically the 1800s, really. The mid part of the 1800s. And that was the poison that we now know as inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Before then, the monetary system that we have today started in the UK in 1694. And inflation was something that wasn't known. It wasn't, it wasn't in the psyche or the understanding. It wasn't in the money either.
No.
If you buried away £100 in the 1700, for example, and dug it back up in the year 1800, it would be worth the same, and you'd be able to buy the same things for it. It's only big corporations. I know we call them corporations. I think the word is cooperations. It's only by them getting together and basically taking charge of this plan it, as we now have to call it. But before then, the monetary system was, to all intents and purposes, an honest money system. And the empire thrived upon it.
It was when it was money, when it was coins.
When it was actually, it had value built into it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
we used coppers, we used silvers.
Well, that's the earth,
with
and the moon, and the sun.
and we used gold in sovereigns.
That's right, the earth, the moon, and the sun.
It wasn't until they started printing the notes, the actual first note that they printed, which was in the 1600s.
It was, and it was was it the Rothschilds? Was it the Rothschilds?
Yes.
Was it the Rothschilds? So the banking dynasty that we now know is,
Yep.
Is basically in charge and has got the planet held to ransom over an illusion called money.
Yeah.
They're actually going to basically inherit the entire planet for a monetary system that is nothing but illusion. It's the biggest magic trick I've ever witnessed.
It is.
And it's not magic at all, but it's working on every bugger else, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's
Now, over there, Stuart, let's have a look. Now, shall we have an in-house evaluation? 20 signs that might mean you're a psychopath. Now, I want the truth, the whole truth, and we can't tell the truth. No one can tell the truth.
Well, I've read Thomas Sheeran's first book.
You have?
Which is, that does get in you ask yourself questions when you're reading that book.
It's because you start having to be honest to yourself
You
and
do.
you realise, yes, you do have those tendencies.
You do have those
But you have to
tendencies.
fight them back.
Exactly.
A gentleman is exactly what the word says, a gentleman. But if you cross his path, if you cross his line, if you've been warned once or twice, then you will have to take the actions that you've allowed him to take. People say, no, I'm not having it. You've offended me. And to be offended was just to be offended.
Yeah.
And I would say, no, I'm not happy with the
I'm not
way you've
happy with
acted
that,
there.
no. Yep.
And they say, well, I am happy. And they say, well, I'm actually not happy. And they'd go to court and they'd have it out. And it was all actually done in a real manly fashion. Until the criminals justice system took over.
Yeah.
Maybe it's always been criminal, really, but they had to enslave all those above us first, didn't they? They had to enslave the entire system above us first.
Yes.
For them to do what they're doing to us now.
Yeah.
Which is why the psychopaths at the top had to make all those below, the trickle-down system, had to make all those below psychopaths as well.
Yeah.
Which is why corruption is rife, because psychopaths don't follow the normal rules that you and I would say were fairness, really. I mean, you and I are happy with a reward-based money system, which is you get paid according to your talents.
Yes.
If you have a talent that is over and above and in more demand than everybody else's, then perhaps you should be more successful at that point.
Yeah.
Because the person who doesn't have that talent has the ability to go learn it.
Yes.
We actually, them bloody Premiership footballers, 150 grand a week.
Yeah.
I ask everybody the same question every time, and that is that, would you do it? Would you do it? And they all say, of course I would. Yeah, of course I would. All the sound effects have been supplied by Stuart tonight. He's a good lad, he really is. Sound effect after sound effect. But they do. Now, 20, let's go for point number one then. Are we psychopaths? Stuart, let's go for number one. What is it?
Well, number one is glib and superficial charm.
Is that me? Is that me? Am I just being glib and superficial? I may well have to tick that one in the interim.
Number two,
I'm not having it, by the way. I'm not bloody
gratuitous
glib and superficial. I'm sat here
self-will.
doing this for bloody free, trying to change the future that my little girl's going to live in.
Yeah.
Because if I don't actually change the future of my little girl's, there won't be a bloody future.
There won't be.
There won't be. I mean, I don't know how long we've got left in this current form that we're made. But if we don't turn this around, there will not be.
And we said
We,
this.
we are going to be automatons, basically.
Our parents and our grandparents have spoilt us, haven't they?
The word spoilt is a horrible word because it
This-
sounds nice in this language, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And
This
it means
is
to
what
bloody ruin.
it is. It's
It
what
means
we've
if
done.
you spoil something, if you spoil a photograph or spoil a painting,
I want to spoil my kids.
exactly. Then
No.
it's ridiculous.
Wrong.
But if we don't actually turn this around, there'll be no money. We'll be living on privileges and allowances.
Yeah.
We'll be working in a feudal system that they've already told us they want to recreate. The redistribution of wealth is to make us all bloody poor.
It is.
And this is now evident.
It
All
is.
the people who've saved for themselves, who've tried to provide all their needs, who
Just
have,
said
who
earlier.
have left the state to look after those that can't. They've left them alone, paid all the bloody bills,
All the taxes.
and now they are seen as no better than
no-
those who didn't contribute. Now this gets us into a paradigm fight that I don't want to have. But what I'm trying to show people is there is the redistribution of the wealth has been shown to you now.
Yes.
Okay, if you've got it, we're having it. If you haven't, we'll have to take it off those that's got it, to make sure that you have what you need. Now, those people at the bottom who won't work, don't work, can't work, and didn't learn, they're in trouble. Right? They only exist until this authoritarian system takes full control. And once it has full control, they'll not need the people at the bottom to vote for the ones that offer them the best benefits. Because that's how this has been done over the past 30, 40 years. All my lifetime. The party that says, those of you, the ones that offer the best benefits, is the party that they'll vote for.
They'll vote for,
This is
yeah.
how simple politics has really been over the years.
Yeah.
Because the people on benefits only hear what they want to hear. And I'm not saying those people on benefits are good or bad people, because that gets into an argument that goes nowhere at all. But they vote for the ones that give them the best deal. Well, why wouldn't you? If I was, that's what I would do. And I suppose in my own way, I've voted for the party that would give me the best deal. We all do it. But the largest class now is the benefit class. Every election now will be, and has been, and probably before now, it's not who does the voting. It's who counts the bloody things, isn't it? And in this country, I know this is true, by the way. In this country, after we've had a count, right, after we've had a count of the votes cast, the next day the whole thing, everything's destroyed.
It is burnt.
Yeah. So if there was any ever comeback of
Yeah.
like, hang on a second, there was some misdeeds over
Yeah.
there, some misdoings.
Yeah.
We found some ballot papers that weren't kept. Listen, I'm sorry, the evidence has been destroyed. Well, you always have to destroy the evidence if you've been up to no bloody good, don't you?
Yeah.
Where were we then? I've gone again. The benefit class, wasn't
The
it?
benefits, yeah.
And that's how it's been done.
It's funny you should mention the benefit class in voting. Have you actually stood, well I'm sure you have, stood and watched what kind of person goes and votes?
Well, I've seen all sorts of people voting, so I don't know.
I
what you
used to vote,
It's
yeah.
it's a fair distribution. It's not there isn't a minority, there isn't a majority of
Yeah,
one
yeah, yeah.
particular, so a lot of the people who can't vote to work also can't vote to vote either.
Yeah, but
That's
doesn't-
why they
no,
have to
no,
rig it.
It's not who does the voting; it's who does the counting.
Well, there is that, yes.
Because I don't think we've had a fair count for a very long time.
No.
I've been to a count actually. I went to a count in '97. The girl that I was with at the time, she worked for the council, and they got offered I can't remember, about 80 quid I think it was, to go put at the local sports hall,
Right.
and they'd spend all night doing the count, which was emptying the boxes and stacking them up on desks in front of them. But all the time that was going on, I can remember there were two outside bodies wandering around picking up the biggest piles off each table. So you never got more than 10, 15 or 20 on a pile. And they were being whisked off to a closed office.
Right.
They were being whisked off to a closed count office. So although it looked like the people in the sports hall were actually doing the count, as they were dividing the papers up, the papers were being picked up and taken to a tally count, a tally office. You couldn't tell who'd won. They said that the idea is that we're taking the papers away so you can't forecast the decision. So the decision is secret until we announce it. But the papers were being taken to an office that we weren't allowed in. You know, they were. The count was what they said it was.
Secret till we announce it.
Yeah, you know. The word secret's in the word secretary, isn't it?
Yeah.
It bloody is, yeah. Right, we've only got point number 2. Okay, are you, are we psychopaths?
Psychopaths.
Okay, no, I'm not accepting I'm number 1. I'm not glib and superficial. It can sound like that sometimes, but we wouldn't be sat here doing this for free if,
No,
if that
if
wouldn't be the
if that
case
were
at
the
all.
case, no.
Number 2.
Gratuitous self-worth.
Gratuitous self-worth. Do I think I'm actually something special? No. John Smith's, roast beefs and Yorkshire puddings and a chip shop. No, I'm not having that. No. I think that we can't go for that, can we? No.
I'm not Piers Morgan or...
No. We can't. What's number 3?
Need for stimulation or proneness to boredom.
When was the last time you said you were bored?
Oh, crikey. No, I were a kid, I think. Teenager, maybe.
What about you?
I'm not going to go there because bored is to board a ship. So I'm
stop! This isn't word trickery from me. I don't think I've said that. I don't think I've said I'm bored now for the past 4 or 5 years since I actually discovered the reality of reality.
No.
The depth, the seriousness of it. I mean, I remember in the early days thinking, this conspiracy stuff, it can't be as deep as this. It's deeper than that.
Well, I've been running around self-unemployed for the last 12 years.
Self-unemployed, I do like that.
I can't ever say I'm bored. And no, I'm not ever bored.
No, we're not having that. What else goes to?
Pathological lying.
No, pathological means intentional, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
You can't stop yourself. We spoke about that a month or 2 or 3 back, and we said, I'm going to try, and even if it means being a little offensive.
Yes.
You know, I'm a right good singer, mate, so I've got some news for you. You're not quite as good as you think you were. You know, even if you have to do that. Do you remember... and how did not lying go for you?
Not very well
it's
at all.
It's a bloody disaster, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because you...
We live in a world of true lies, don't we?
People
That's
ask
true.
how you are, and you really want to say, well, I'm not right happy, because I only want to go into a full...
Yeah,
and you think, no, that ain't the person. So you just go, yes, I'm fine. How are you?
And if you go with the alternative, they sort of go...
Would it something I said?
I'm not asking that again. Well, I won't ask again. And then they take you off your Skype list,
Yeah.
off your bloody mobile phone. What else you got? We'll do the top 10. We won't do the top 20. It's far too many.
Conning and
Cunning.
Yeah, conning basically. This is reads like a list of the properties of government rather than.
Of course it does. These are your lawyers, your barristers, your CEOs, your parliament heads. This is who these people are. They don't get to the top by being bloody nice. This is the truthless. I know we say ruthless, but the fact is it's bloody truthless.
Yeah.
That's who gets to the top. The bully ran the playground, didn't he? He wasn't the smartest guy in the playground, but he ran the bloody playground. And how evolution's worked over time is from the cows and the bulls reality. The actual brain boxes who didn't come out at playtime, who weren't really very good at sports, who didn't get the bloody girls, they sat in, played chess, figured out that this is much more important. They now employ the bullies to keep us away from them.
Yeah.
Right. What else you got?
Next one, lack of remorse or guilt.
Do you know what, 20 years ago I could say, yeah, I think that's partly me, yeah. I thought I was the best thing since sliced bread, but I lived in a little place. I lived in a little place and everything I did business-wise was successful. And I thought, I'm bloody good at this. I thought, I'm really bloody good at this. It was a long way down. By God, it was a long way down. And it bloody hurt when I hit the bottom as well. Again, not everything's for sharing, but let me just tell you that I thought, I'm going to say I was there once and I got taught a lesson that I haven't forgotten. So yes, at one point, guilty. Hopefully, other people will judge me. You can't judge yourself, can you? Other people decide.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Shallow effect.
I think we look around and we see that, don't we? We see a shallowness in people, you know, when you actually say, would you really like to make the world a little bit better for your kids? And they go, well, yeah, of course, yeah. But we're not really doing that, are we? We're allowing the control system to get them into more debt.
Yeah.
We're allowing the control system to take away the basics of reading, writing, arithmetic, and common sense. We really need to perhaps consider if this is a good way forward. Well, you've lost them then. That's it, you've bloody lost them. Well, that's a bit deep, that, isn't it?
Well, the answer is, well, what can I do about it? But
yeah, but stop watching the bloody news, it's making you feel tiny.
But the answer should be, that's a good question, what do you think we could do about it?
Well, people say, what are you doing? I say, well, I'm talking to people like you. I'm actually trying to help people who are sat behind. I mean, I think there's tens of thousands of people sat behind the door right tonight. They're sat behind the front door tonight thinking, how am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to pay the electric bill?
Yeah.
I reckon they're probably all sat in one room with all the other doors closed and the radiators off.
I'm one of them.
Yeah,
that's
because
me.
you know you're realising that this luxury that we started the show off with, we live like royalty.
Yeah, it's going.
Right, now I'm getting back to the fact and enjoy it, because if you've still got it, you're not going to have it for very much longer.
It's going fast.
Yeah, what number we on, Stu? Let's do 10 and give it up.
Right, number 8 is callousness and lack of empathy, which kind of follows on from number 7.
No, I think I've always been able to. No, I think I've always been able to do that. No, I'm not going to say not callousness and then. No, I'm okay with that. No, never.
No,
I'm not guilty of that, and I'm not having it. No. What else you got? Number 10.
No, this is 9. Parasitic lifestyle.
Do we live off other people? No, we don't.
No.
We're all self-employed.
Yes,
Stu's self-employed.
Stu's
You're self-employed. I'm
yeah.
self-employed.
Yeah.
No, we can't be parasitic. No.
Number 10. Poor behavioural controls.
Again, 20 years ago, when I thought I was.
Well, that's the thing of use, isn't it?
I think
I got over that quick, but.
Well, I suppose we're hoping that you don't.
That should be something you grow out of.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you're saying it. But.
What does the system think of us? What does the system think of us? Maybe not us three, because we're trying to be the opposite to this. But let's see what a guest that we've had before, Mr. Mark Passio, says. Listen.
It's a general term for people who have no idea of their dark agenda and who have never looked into any of their ideologies, never have looked into any of their symbolism, can't read their symbolism, don't know what plan they have for them, which is basically eugenics and ultimately extermination. They call the average person who basically doesn't read books, and who doesn't pay attention to what's going on around them, and sits in their house, basically, with the pattern of wake up, go to work, come home, eat, watch TV, go to sleep, and then repeat the same pattern over and over and over again. They call people like that the dead, because they consider that they're not really intelligent, they're completely apathetic, and they'll just continue to do the same thing over and over again, and not care that our rights are being taken away, not care that there's total social inequality and injustice in the world, and they won't take any action. So somebody who is ignorant, apathetic, and lazy, and cowardly, in their mind, isn't alive. Because those are the qualities that really make you alive and human. You have the ability to use your mind, you have the ability to care about something, and then you have the ability to act on something. And they consider that the people of the world are basically not doing any of these three things, and they're not using them in any kind of higher capacity. Okay? All they know is what they're told through the idiot box or in the yellow journalist newspapers. All they care about is their own little individual life, their own little individual situation, or the few people that they surround themselves with on a daily basis, even if they care about that. And they basically don't do anything except the things that are required to procure enough money to put shelter around them, food on their table, and if there's any left over after that, maybe to have some form of entertainment or sexual escapade. And that's about the end of the extent that they act on anything. So therefore, if these three components of consciousness aren't activated, the occult rulers consider those people not alive, literally dead spiritually. And therefore, their rationale is, we're not doing this to real living people. We're doing this to people who are already robots. And therefore, we can't really be held accountable, because these are just dead clumps of flesh, dead clumps of matter. They're not really human beings. That is literally how they think of this. I'm not paraphrasing or, putting my spin on this. I'm telling you, that is exactly how they think of the average person. And I've, heard this from them.
And when you were involved in this, that's why I wanted to, you're like the perfect person, because you have, from an insider, a former insider's view, you understand better than anybody could.
That is Mr. Mark Passio. Then it's not my interview, as you can tell. I actually took that from another guest host. Fantastic, though. I do like Mark Passio. Very much describes the satanic side of this control system. And it is a satanic system, isn't it, guys? It is.
Yeah.
It is. And satanic does it. We can satanic it means the devil, doesn't it? The red and black guy with the horns, and they think it's fairy tale stuff, isn't it?
They do,
because
but it's not.
They can't decode what's been put in today's music videos. They can't decode the word evil properly, because evil is the deity that stands just outside our line of vision, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is evil. We can call it the devil, because that's the other shoulder, isn't it? That's the guy on the other shoulder.
Yeah.
But evil is the very deity that we can't see, and we have to fight against, because we can resist everything but temptation, and that comes from a very old. It's the Lord's Prayer, isn't it? I mean, that's where that and you know, it's been said over the years many times, and it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we can't resist temptation, because the devil is a very tempting so-and-so. He really does turn up as our best friend while robbing us.
Yeah.
He robs us of
Speaks our language.
But he robs us of our very spirit, doesn't he? And he gives us false spirits like gin and rum and vodka and Bacardi in their place.
Yes.
You know, and he sees us as the dead. And he doesn't feel guilty stealing off the dead, does he? Because he's made us the dead. We are the dead. We care about nothing except our own survival. But that's a predatory money system.
Yeah.
Which is why they see us like animals. Because we live in the United Animal Kingdom. Which is why I started off the cows and bulls, the sheep and the rams and the fish. But the fish analogy that I gave, the fact is that most of the fish were thrown overboard in the early 70s, when the final essence of money, as we would call it, was taken off us, and the whole thing became a counterfeit operation.
Yeah.
Because it was 67, I think, when the last money of any value was minted. Or at least, yes, the last money that actually was worth its face value was about 1967. They threw us overboard, to quote George Carlin, over 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So, if you were lucky enough to be floating, driving your own ship, and surviving on the surface, well, they've been throwing us overboard ever since, haven't they? You know, you see the analogy of fishermen throwing the fish overboard, because it's us. The analogy is we've been thrown overboard one by one by one by one. And because we're dead, we're sinking. We've done the Monty Python sketch, haven't we? We mentioned that time and time again.
We have, yeah. The dead parrot one.
Yeah, the dead parrot that starts with
very
us.
beginning.
Yeah, the fish tank. the human caricature being dropped in the fish tank, and then the parrot sketch starts off.
It does.
And it's all about us. We're sick as parrots, and we live parrot fashion, and we're dead.
Yeah.
It's unnerving, though, isn't it? Because we have a story. This, I think I mentioned it earlier, but we didn't actually. As usual, I went wandering off. I went wandering off down somewhere else about that lady who's working for the police force with that tweet and the socialists.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I mean we sort of mentioned that before, and I should have played the Mark Passio clip then, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because you see these people sort of the Nazism thing, but Nazism is.
Yeah.
Well, it's to throw people off because they imagine the very person that was Hitler and the very Nazis and what they did, and they think, oh, that couldn't happen here. But they're looking for the wrong thing. Because history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, doesn't it? It comes up with another way of tempting you into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think many people much smarter than I say that Hitler perhaps he pushed on a bit too fast, really. Well, I'm not sure that's true. It doesn't matter.
No,
we're still here, and the
Yes,
same
we are.
people are still in charge, and the same banks are making the same money, and we've got a language that's war and peace, but always leaning towards war. And Nazis is just National Socialists.
Yes.
And what does she say there? What's her quote there?
Well, it's in the Mail. It says, newly elected Tory crime commissioner sparks outcry after tweeting Hitler picture, calling for socialists to embrace their inner Nazism.
Now, doesn't that actually show us? Because what is National Socialism really? What's the word that we should be using for it? It's eugenics, isn't it? It's eugenics.
Yes,
it's
I
eugenics.
suppose so, yeah.
That's what National Socialism. I mean, what was Hitler doing?
He was, yeah. That was eugenics.
That's why I started the show off with, where is your line? Because these people now, they haven't actually got a gun to our head physically, but they're engineering the very social structure that we live in. So we can basically die in a cold house because we can't afford to heat and eat. We can take medication that never cures the problem, but treats us along the way until we've basically run out of money. By which time, I mean, I don't know how many doctors are in amongst this, but if you look at Eyes Wide Shut,
Doctrine.
well, doctors, we use the word doctor to cover up our mistakes, don't we?
Yes.
And doctors only practice. And I think the statistics are out there that the Death Management Service kills more people than anything else. It's number one in the how many people are killed by the Death Management Service each year. But going back to the system that we live in, I mean, we can see now the old people have no value to the system. But they spoke about this in the 20s and 30s, where somehow we were a bit more okay with it, actually, you know. We didn't actually worry about the old people in a way that we just openly said that the old people, you know, we can't look after them. Well, what families did then was they looked after their own.
They did, and my grandma did. She looked after my great-grandma.
What I was saying was that we weren't harder then. We were more... we had more empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
And the state said, look, we can't look after everybody. We can't look after all these old people. You're going to have to do it yourself. So we did. Never even questioned it.
No.
It was only the safety net when that came in that everything started to change, didn't it? It was called a welfare system, but it wasn't welfare at all. we haven't fared well, have we?
No.
We haven't fared very bloody well at all.
It was very unfair.
So, going back to it, I mean, the old people now have no value in this society to many people. I mean, I tell a story, and I'll tell it again, about a gentleman who no longer works in the care home that would be just a little bit down the road from me. And he says that he was experiencing on more than one occasion. And he quoted a lady's son who turned up, it'll be 3 or 4 years ago now. And this gentleman said, how's my mum doing? And the carer said, well, not really so good today. In fact, she's not had a good week at all, not eating much. And, well, we're a bit concerned, really. She needs to get some energy back, you know. We're doing what we can, but she's not so good. All right, and he went to see her. And then the next week he comes back again. He said, how's she doing? He said, a lot better. She certainly seems to have perked up this week. We've got her back on the proper foods. She seems much more like her old self. We're delighted. And he went, oh. You know, and there we are. There we are. We're here already, if you know what I mean. We're all looking to the future without realising that it's here. You just have to look a little closer and ask the right questions, and you find that we're already here. Now, to finish off that is that they're actually giving us the ability to kill ourselves.
Yeah.
We know the jack in the water, the jack in the food. God knows what they're doing with the air. God knows what they're giving us to keep us happy in the SSRIs or the psychotropic things. And I can tell you about those SSRIs. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I can tell you that what's been said about SSRIs is correct. It is absolutely correct. Now, what a lot of people aren't picking up on is, it is when the doctor changes your SSRI.
What does that stand for?
It's the serotonin reuptake inhibitors. I'm not sure about the first S.
Right.
But it is SRIs. And these are... I can't give you the actual... But basically, they close off the doomsday scenario. They close your brain off.
Right.
The part that is a problem.
So they suppress...
So you're always pretty
parts
happy.
of your brain.
Yeah, you're always pretty happy. Even though, I mean, we're having to be drugged now just to accept this reality. But that's what's happening.
It is.
I mean, this is driving people mad, so you have to be drugged just to get through a day.
Jesus.
It's been going on for some time, hasn't it? But these these SRIs, I can tell you, and people aren't saying this, and I don't know why they're not saying it, it's when they change it. Now, I'm aware of 2. One was called citalopram. Okay, now, I know somebody who was on citalopram, and the doctor said, right, I know, and the doctor said, what we'll do is, we'll try these different ones, and see how they go. Now, I know they were called sertraline, right? And this is somebody very close to me, and I'm not going any further. Not everything's for sharing, not every detail. And I know, on the very day that they changed from citalopram to sertraline, that person became somebody I'd never met before. I'd never seen that person before. And they didn't care. They would have done anything. Themselves, others. The change was terrifying. And it was only that I thought, it's these bloody tablets. It has to be. Nothing else has changed. And that was a day that stayed in my memory, and it'll stay in my memory till I die. The change that was done by that one citalopram to sertraline. And I've remembered those, I knew. I remembered the names, and I thought, if I see anybody else on this, I'm going to relay this story to them. And say, if you're doing okay on that one, don't change. Because it's the change over time that it goes bloody mad. And this person went absolutely off the scale, scared me, wouldn't let them out, wouldn't let them be on their own. They wanted to do something that they would never do.
Yeah.
We have, actually, a guest coming on in about 10 minutes' time.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a bit about him while we're getting ready for him, okay?
Okay, yeah.
Because it's a pleasant surprise. A pleasant surprise. That's what we've got coming. So let's get ourselves sorted out then, because I do want to give him a little bit of time.
Now, my grandmother was a wonderful person. She taught me how to play the game Monopoly. She understood that the name of the game is to acquire. She would accumulate everything she could, and eventually she became the master of the board. And eventually, every time, she would take my last dollar, and I would quit in utter defeat. And then she would always say the same thing to me. She'd look at me and she'd say, one day, you'll learn to play the game. One summer, I played Monopoly with a neighbor almost every day, all day long. We'd play Monopoly for hours. And that summer, I learned to play the game. I came to understand the only way to win is to make a total commitment to acquisition. I came to understand that money and possessions, that's the way that you keep score. And by the end of that summer, I was more ruthless than my grandmother. I was ready to bend the rules if I had to win that game. And I sat down with her to play that fall. I took everything she had. I destroyed her financially and psychologically. I watched her give her last dollar and quit in utter defeat. And then she had one more thing to teach me. Then she said, now it all goes back in the box. All those houses and hotels, all the railroads and utility companies, all that property and all that wonderful money. Now it all goes back in the box. I didn't want it to go back in the box. No, she said. None of it was really yours. You got all heated up about it for a while. But it was around a long time before you sat down at the board. And it will be here after you're gone. Players come and players go. But it all goes back in the box. Houses and cars. Titles and clothes. Filled barns, bulging portfolios, even your body. Because the fact is that everything I clutch and consume and hoard is going to go back in the box, and I'm going to lose it all. That's not much of an ROI on that. You have to ask yourself, when you finally get the ultimate promotion, when you've made the ultimate purchase, when you buy the ultimate home, when you have stored up financial security and climbed the ladder of success to the highest rung you can possibly climb it, and the thrill wears off, and it will wear off, then what? How far do you have to walk down that road before you see where it leads?
And it leads to self-destruction. So, back on the show then, the last 25 minutes. Everything we've talked about tonight, all the links will be up on YouTube, or below the YouTube, including the Channel 4, your Facebook, my Facebook. This full Blog Talk podcast will be there as well. Next week's link to next week's show, all done and dusted. But we have a guest that I've never spoken to before. So, let's get him on and say a very, very good evening to Mr. Vin James. Hello, Vin. Now,
can you hear me? Oh, there we go. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
there
well.
You go, it's working. Hello, mate. How you doing?
A very good evening to you, sir, and thank you for joining us. What a pleasure, actually. I mean, we've never spoken before. So, you are live on air. We're recording as we speak. So, what can I do for you, Vin?
Oh, well, I just wanted to join in on the show. I was advertising it on one of the Skype groups. I was asking for guests to come on. I'd like to talk about anything, and I just wrongly volunteered, I suppose.
No, you can't be wrong. You can never be wrong. I mean, we actually sit here on the Tuesday night, and I say my piece, like many other people in Alternative Radio Land. I think Alternative Radio Land is a great place. I really enjoy. I enjoy being part of it, but obviously being part of it doesn't always give you a lot of time to listen to other shows. Tell us a bit about yourself, Vin. I'm aware of very little of your history. Tell us a bit about you and where you are.
Oh, right. I'm based in South East London near Greenwich, and where I'm coming from is a few years ago I got into Mark Stevens. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I know the very gentleman.
Okay, yeah. So, basically what I did was I started studying up on what he was showing people about, what he had revealed about the court system and government as such, and basically I sort of ran with it myself and went about trying to convert his work over to the English court system, if you like. And I've set a website up since. I'm doing a radio show myself on a Sunday now. That's on Critical Mass Radio.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm aware of that station. I did spend a little bit of time there, and then moved on to do my own thing. Yeah, congratulations with that.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was actually I had a radio show on Awake Radio for a while, but I've had to move host since then. But yes, I mean I set a website up. It's called the No State Projects uk.co.nr. Waiting to get the .co.uk bit sorted out.
Okay, well, if you link that on my Skype, and then I'll be able to stick it below the YouTube video when we do it for tomorrow. I'll be happy I'll be happy to do that. So what you're telling me is that you're fighting the legal eagle system. How I mean, I'm aware of it, and I'm aware of the maritime history of it, and I'm aware that it's all based on water and ships, and it's a sea-based control system that now has been brought onto land. Would I be right there?
Well, a lot of that is, in the way we look at it, is a lot of that's just legal opinion and political labelling. We just generally attack it from the point of view of the facts. You know, what do the facts tell us when you're taking on the legal system? And the political side of it, we tend to stay away from. So whether you call it maritime, common law, admiralty law, whatever you choose to label it, we generally don't play that game with them. We use the system against them in the sense of, we'll use their own rules and regulations against them, and a lot of their case law as well, how they claim they're meant to operate and go about, delivering justice and go through, due process and all that in court. And basically what we do is we use that against them to get them to contradict themselves. So it doesn't matter to us what you label it, whether you label it common law, admiralty law, whether it's to do with ships or anything like that. I mean, I understand the history behind it, and a lot of it is probably based around that, but we just don't. We don't go that. We don't use any of the free man methods as such, or the trust law game, anything like that. We don't make an issue of the name or, titles, legal titles. We obviously understand the legal fictions, and then we attack that from the factual perspective.
Well, that's.
I'll give you an example. I mean, just a borough or a county. Everybody knows that. Everybody should know within this movement now that a borough or a county is obviously a fiction. It's not real. But a lot of people don't necessarily know factually what it really is and what created it. Well, all a borough or a county is a statute. It's a piece of paper. So when they're claiming that you're physically present within a borough or a county, what they're actually claiming is madly wise is that they're saying you're physically present within a piece of paper, within a statute.
Yeah, I am aware of the dead fiction that we're attached to. I am, I do understand that we don't have a person. Well, we're not a person, but we have a person. I understand that, and I've done the word persona and personality and right down to person. And I do understand that they've had to dualise this system so big business can deal directly with us.
Well, I mean, I'll say we don't care about that. I understand from that perspective that that's probably what they've done, but there's no real fact to back any of that up as actually being true. And even if it was, it's just a legal opinion still. Just because somebody turns around and says, "Oh, your name," if it's put in all caps, becomes a legal name and a legal title and all that. If they want to believe that, they can believe whatever they want. But where the facts prove it. Where are the facts to prove that somebody, when you look at a man or look at a woman, a court or a judge decides, well, actually, I'm not really looking at someone who's flesh and blood. I'm looking at, a corporation, some sort of fiction, or I'm only acting against a fiction.
Okay.
We've never seen any facts to actually back any of that up.
All right,
Although I'm not saying it's completely nonsense, but we
you-
don't care. They can call us Mickey Mouse for all they like.
That's
Bring the facts forward and prove you have a valid claim against us.
well,
And that's how we challenge it.
that sounds a very common sense approach as trying to fight the fairy tale that they've sold us of how they've done it. Whereas you're just saying, yeah, whatever, shows the proof. I like that idea.
Yeah, and that's basically what we do. I mean, when they want to bring a claim against you, if it's civil or criminal, they have to have what's called a valid cause of action against you. Now, according to their rules, a cause of action contains a minimum of 3 elements, and this is breach of a legal duty, violation of a legal right, and damage. So basically, what they claim is under our system, under the adversarial system we have in this country, is that it's based on the fact that there has to always be a victim, regardless. So it's one thing bringing an accusation against somebody, then it's a point of actually proving there's a victim, there's actually an injury.
Yeah, I'm with you so far. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically this is what we challenge them on. You can accuse anyone. It's the same as if you get a parking ticket, a speeding ticket, anything like that. They still have to prove there's a victim, believe it or not. Even with a parking ticket, there has to be a victim.
Right,
So this is what we challenge them on. We say, well, go on, then, show that you've present a valid cause of action. Show that you've actually presented a valid claim. Where's your victim?
So this would go along the lines of if they claim you've committed an offence, you're asking to bring who's been offended into court, yeah?
Who is the victim? Yeah, and this is the thing. The way their system works is you have 2 types of victim. You have the public victim, i.e., it's called or what's not commonly known as a public tort, or even a crime. A criminal offence is a crime against all society. So apparently, it's a crime against everybody. But when it's civil, it can fall under tort or a contract. Now, a tort can fall into 2 categories: someone private, an individual, or the public still, which is called a public tort. And that's it. So one is fictional, and one can be real. So what are you pointing to? Whenever they talk about the public, well, ask factually what the public is, and the public is an abstraction. It's a political construct. It doesn't exist other than in your own head or in their heads.
Okay.
And that's all the public is. When they talk about the public, they're not necessarily talking about people or people in the community as individuals. It's a political construct. It's not real. It's fictional. So if they want to say the victim's the public, well, okay, then fair enough. Now show us the facts to prove it.
Okay, so how is this method of defence going then? Because you're speaking as if you've had a number of successes, and I suspect that might be the case. Am I right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're starting to build up some successes in this country now. We've just recently just beat a parking ticket using these methods. I know it's only petty, a parking ticket, but the same principle applies nonetheless. I've been dealing with a speeding case over the last couple of years, and I'm about to get that dealt with in the High Court, and they're going to have to drop that case against me. But in America, where Mark's done most of his work as such, especially in the early days, he's had plenty of cases dropped against people. This is regarding tax issues, parking tickets, speeding tickets, that sort of thing.
You see, I always find this. A lot of people are concerned with this, the legal movement, as I'll say, or the lawful movement, or whatever. I'm not trying to trip myself up, but I'm sure I'm going to manage it. A lot of people involved in this, we don't have to pay any bills if we don't want to movement. Sometimes they claim that includes like car insurance, and your gas bill, and your electric bill, and your water bill. And I'm pretty curious how on earth that can be true, because it doesn't make any common sense.
No, not really. You're right. And the thing is, on certain principles and certain issues regarding that thing, they're sort of talking a bit of sense, but then sometimes they're talking a lot of nonsense as well. The problem is that, when you're dealing with somebody who's actually providing you with a real service, but then you turn around saying, yeah, but they're not really charging us for the electric or the gas, they're just charging us for the meters and this, that, and the other. You've got to have something to back it up. You've got to have some facts to back a lot of this stuff up. And a lot of these issues that they bring up are just legal arguments. Now, we stay away from that. We couldn't care less about legal arguments. It's all to do with the facts. And the thing is with the free man movement, with some people who have come. See, the thing is, I've got nothing against the likes of Rob Menard and certain people who have, in the early days, were trying to educate people in this stuff. I think the problems come from people who have come since and misrepresented and misused what he was actually trying to show people to begin with. And the problem is with some people in this movement, they're coming across as freeloaders when they're acting like that, saying we haven't got to pay bills and things like that. I mean, I can understand the point of view where they're saying there is no real money. Well, yeah, we know that is a fact. There is no such thing as real money. It's just bits of paper as such, just saying a promise to pay.
Yeah, I mean,
the problem is you can't really get yourself out of the system in that respect. We're stuck in it, like it or not, to a certain degree. And I'll say a lot of those sorts of arguments don't wash with me anymore. I mean, I first started off when I first got into this, like most people. I started learning about the free man movement. I got introduced to all this by Rob Menard, but a lot of it doesn't wash now with a lot of what was being said. I'm not saying that he was necessarily wrong in everything he said. I think a lot of people who have come since and misinterpreted and misrepresented what he was trying to show people. That's where a lot of this has gone wrong.
Well, the thing is that the system is now, I mean, corruption is now endemic throughout the entire system. And you're picking on the Crown, the courts, the very system that should be the bastion of justice. And of course, it's obvious now that the criminal justice system is designed to protect the criminals. And maybe always it was. But the one thing that the internet has done, it's allowed us to perhaps gain an education that we would not normally be able to get. And the internet is proving a very, very successful tool. And for those that want to learn and to be educated, it is allowing us to share that knowledge at the speed of light. And for me, that's the only positive that I can find with the internet. I use it for what I need it for, but I don't use it for fun or pleasure or enjoyment. And there's not much for me to learn on the internet that I can't get out of books faster, clearer and better. But the internet is our last chance, it's our last strike at freedom. And if we don't take it and use it for the positives it can share, it can give the very few that are using it for positive reasons, then we're going to give up, aren't we?
That's it, absolutely. I think it's been an absolute what's the word for it? It's been an absolute revelation. Revolution in that sense. What the internet's been able to give us. I mean, we'd never be having this talk now if it wasn't for that. And I wouldn't have the knowledge and understanding that I have now if it weren't for the internet. But
let me ask you a question. Yeah. Because this revolution that we're all talking about, and the revolution is a personal thing. It's how you feel and have you completed the circuit and you're ready for another one. I don't think revolution is for me, it's a personal thing. But let me go back to, was it 1999, and the very film that started this awakening for many people, and that was The Matrix. And The Matrix movie, it clearly did say very loudly to those that had eyes to see that, I'm not going to tell you how this ends. I'm going to tell you how it starts. And that's about the leaving pitch on the Matrix #1 movie. And along with 2001, the 9/11, it really, you could almost say, has this been engineered? Is this our last chance? Have they given us the opportunity to fight back? And if we don't fight back, then we've consented to what they've told us they're going to do, because this internet has allowed them to tell the entire planet exactly what they're doing. And for those that want to listen and hear and learn, it's there. And for those that don't, alternatives, it's awash with alternatives. Are they not saying to us, guys, this is a global spy grid that we will make you do business on whether you like it or not? You can use it for good or bad, because everything the devil offers you, you can use it for good or bad. Mm-hmm. We've been given our chance, and this is almost the last chance saloon, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, the way I've always looked at this in a way is where we had to get to this point in history.
Yeah,
it would have been almost impossible for us never to have got here and be at this point in history doing what we're doing right now. And having the technology that we've got, it was going to happen one way or the other. And it's the same with any tyranny. If you put anybody into a situation where they can become a tyrant over other people, they'll take it and they'll use it for all the worst purposes. So and that's human nature for you. That's what the Milgram and Stanford prison experiments taught us. You put people in that environment, in that situation, that's exactly what they'll become. They'll become sadistic and they'll become they'll become tyrants. If you put people in the right situation.
I think you're absolutely right. You are.
No surprise to me that we're at this point in history at this time doing exactly what we're doing now. It had to happen. It's going to happen at some point, and here we are. We just happen to be the generation that's alive at the time when it is.
Well,
so I get what you mean. They're sort of saying, this is your last chance, but we're at the beginning of something. I don't think we're at the end of something.
And the two things, obviously, one door closes and another one opens if you choose to see it that way. I agree with you. Now, give us out your contact details again, because we are coming to the end of our show. We've only got 6 minutes to run. I've got a few things that I need to do before we run out of that 2-hour slot that we have. But please give us your contact details, your website, and we'll maybe talk after the show again, so we can perhaps arrange a date in the future when we can perhaps really share what it is that you have to share over a longer period of time. So give us those details.
Sure, mate. Yeah, well, my website is No State Project UK .co.nr, and you can get me on Skype. It's Autonomist123, and that's it. That's the best way you can contact me. And if you check my website out, it's linked to Mark's website as well, which is markstevens.net.
Yep.
And if more of you are interested in learning about his work and how he's gone about, taking on the cults and challenging them, then they're the best places to go.
Okay, then. Well, thanks for joining us this evening. I'm going to let you go and say I wish you well in your endeavour. Well done for actually getting out there, putting your head above the parapet and being part of the fight, because it doesn't matter what we're doing, if we're all doing something, then eventually the noise will be deafening. People will hear us eventually.
That's right, yeah, absolutely.
Good luck at what you're doing. I'll speak to you soon. I'm going to finish off the end of the show. Thanks for joining us.
That's fine, mate. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's been an honour.
Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
See you then.
Right, okay, what a good call that was. What a good call. Okay, 5 minutes to 11, one more tune to play. It is one of my favourite tunes. From an American rock star, an 80s rock star. It's one of my favourite tunes. An interesting show again.
Yes.
I mean, if we ever tried to...
think so.
It's called Unpenned. If we ever try to script this, we'd be wasting the time it took, wouldn't we?
More comments on YouTube, please.
Yeah.
Be more critical, please.
Let's get involved.
Yeah.
Let's get involved. We're going to split this. We're going to split this show up into... I'm hoping we're going to split it up into about 4 different segments.
Yep.
And post them at different... I'm going to listen back to the show and see if it will split into 4 segments. And rather than posting the whole show, we'll post a segment and the whole show underneath.
Yeah.
If you want to listen to it.
Listen to the whole thing.
And then we'll post another segment with the same, we'll try and do it in different segments, so we're not asking you to sit down for a good hour 40, an hour 45, that sort of thing. Okay, all links will be below the YouTube. Thanks for joining us this evening. It is good night from me, Paul Rippon.
And good night from me.
Bye-bye, everybody.